Thank you. Um, yeah, so we did Dankun, was it last week already or 2 weeks ago? Time flies. And now I'm going to talk about Stateless Ethereum, which is a key item on the roadmap, and that is hopefully coming soon. So I'll start, like many people have today, like at this conference, with reminding you how painful it can be to run homes like a solo staker. So sorry, Marius. It's a reality check. To be a home staker, you need to have 32 ETH, of course. But you will also never really know how bad your internet connection is before you run your own node. You don't know how bad your electric grid is before you run your own node. Typically, I would run my solo staker. Everything would be fine. I go on holiday or to a conference or anything, and that's when there's a power cut. So you need either a smart plug, if there's a power cut, to be able to cycle your your PC or your router, because the router also tends to freeze, or a good neighbor, a trusty neighbor that you give the keys to your validator to, I guess. But yeah, generally you need to love DevOps, and you need to love DevOps any time of the day or night. So, for example, last week I woke up to. Do I have? Yeah, okay. I woke up to this missed slots, and I had to fix this. So yeah, staking is hard. It's if you compare it to food. If you're a terrible cook like me, you're still better off going to the fast food restaurant. But the question is, can we make it easier for someone to eat better food? And so we are coming up with a few ingredients to this end. One of them is vertical trees. This is what I'm working on. There's also distributed validator technology, proposer builder separation. So Marius already covered this, but I will also cover this a little bit. And rainbow staking, that was also mentioned by Vitalik yesterday. But let's start with vertical trees. So this is not going to be a very, very technical talk, but yeah. So to give you the TLDR of vertical trees, what vertical trees allow for are smaller proofs. And smaller, like the tree itself is going to become smaller as a result. And the idea is that the proof is so small, the tree is so small that you can package a stateless view of the tree, like a subset of the tree that is small enough that that you can add it to the block, and when you receive the block, you can unpack this stateless view of the tree, and it contains all the information you need to execute the block. And yes, my finger slipped, but basically there's a lot of very useful advantages to this. It slows down the state growth. It reduces the impact of I/O, which is a big performance killer currently on Ethereum. Simply because most nodes will not even need to write data to disk. Everything will fit in RAM. And even for those who, like the block builders, for example, they need to write data to disk, but there's less data to handle, so it's an improvement in itself. Because of that, because you live day to day, block to block, you don't really need to maintain all the history, so it will give rise to stateless, some dedicated stateless clients that only support the latest fork, or maybe one fork and the next, and so that will help client diversity. It will also improve like client management, because yeah, you just receive a proof with the block, so you don't have to trust anybody to promise to always give you the proof. It's attached to the block. Because we get rid of the I/O problem, we can maybe, I don't want to make this kind of promise at a conference, but we could maybe increase the gas limit. And more than everything else, we have a cute elephant mascot, so that's a done deal, really. Another aspect that is quite interesting is going to play nice is distributed validator technology. So there are two companies that I know of. There's probably more that are working on this. One of them is Obol and the other one is Diva, if I'm not mistaken. The idea is to pool resources. So it's you can, instead of having one validator running at your place that you have to maintain, wake up at 4 a.m. to fix when there's a problem, you can share your you can build a distributed validator with some kind of middleware, and every validator is going to run maybe a different client, or at least help you perform. I'm looking for a word all of a sudden. Fault tolerance. So if your connection goes down, your partner's connection will still be up, likely, and so your validator's uptime will be better. So you can also implement what I call like client diversity, which is something that has been proposed by Peter from Geth back in Istanbul. Even if Geth remains the supermajority client, at least before they push a block to the network, they will be light clients to other ELs, and they can verify that there's agreement on what the block is. And if they realize they have the minority share of the block proposed, like they disagree on what block should be proposed, they would refrain from doing this. So it would solve some of the problems of client diversity. But yeah, it's still I mean, it's still in work in progress. And there's also, so I was talking about pooling machines, but you could theoretically, and Obol has written a few smart contracts to this end, you could also share, like pool your ETH together to come up to pass the 32 ETH threshold. But for this to be perfectly secure and decentralized, we need EIP 7002. Which has been CFI'd for Prague. I think it's CFI'd, or is it right? Okay, there's also a proposer builder separation. So you just saw a talk about this topic. But yeah, the idea is that most of the blocks are currently built by very centralized entities, or at least unknown entities. We don't really know what they are. And there's maybe less than 8% of the network that is doing it the way it was meant to be done. So this is a reality, unfortunately. Oops, sorry. This is a reality. We have to deal with it, and if you can't beat them, join them. So maybe there's a way to use this to at least build a better Ethereum. So the fact is that if it's easier to maintain a node, if it's simpler to build a validator, if more people have access to the validation role, it will create, at least it will improve the balance of power. And honestly, just to counter any bad behavior, what you need is one reliable source of block production that you can fall back to. It doesn't even need to be performant. It doesn't need to be perfect. It can have a lot of bugs, but it's just about keeping the potential bad actors in check. And the last big component is rainbow staking. So the idea is that currently a validator is expected to do everything. Maybe we can differentiate or create some intermediate roles that would be available to people or to actors with less capital, less technical abilities, which are called light services in this article by Barnaby. So it creates a place for big, heavy operators. It creates a place for the little guy. So that's a pretty interesting article. I have the link at the end. Right, so in his article, Barnaby told me he mostly thinks about censorship resistance as a test that could be done, and that's my feeling, right? Not what the article in itself says. That you could extend it to other part of the protocol. So you could do something that effectively sync committees do. Just that could be a role that could be done by a small solo staker, maybe serving proofs, serving history. So there's a big design space here. And then there's all the things you could do on top of that. So use history expiry, realize that you could also interact with L2s, account abstraction, portal network, and inclusion lists. So I want to give a few use cases. They're by no means exhaustive. They're by no means well defined. It's just to give people an impression of what could be done. So the first one is basically the DVT example, mini staking pool. You find a group of users, you all get together, you pool your ETH, you pool your technical resources, and then this way we can try to reduce the dependence on the staking pool, because if it's easier to do to build your own custom pool, why would you go to the big actor? So the answer to the question I just gave is LST. You can do restaking, you can do liquid staking, but it could be done. You could create your own token. You could create a standard so that when you create such a pool, you have a token that is standard, that can be exchanged over that can be liquid effectively. So the recipe is pretty simple. You just get a standard internet connection. You have a low power machine. You have vendors that exist, DApp Node, Ethereum on ARM. I say Coinbase because I'm sure they'll get into the business if it makes sense. You don't buy a lot of ETH. You create a contract, a DVT contract with people. You plug it. You forget. Another use case is the sync server. So that's also a pretty broad stroke description. But the idea is because we have stateless, we are going to forget data. I mean, we don't want to forget it forever. We still want to be it to be available in some form, but it doesn't have to be available on every single node. So it makes sense that some nodes could be holding the history and serving it upon request. This is not necessarily connected to rainbow staking. It doesn't have to be subsidized by the protocol, or at least paid for by the protocol. It can be paid for by a fee. But we already have some aspects of this that are paid for by the protocol with sync committees. It tells you where the head of the chain is, which is some important part of the sync. You could imagine doing the same thing with the rest of the sync, like serving state, giving proofs, things like this. The main case I was describing of rainbow staking, at least as it's been described to me by Barnabé, was censorship resistance. So you could have light nodes that are in charge of creating inclusion lists, assuming those inclusion lists are mandatory. So that would be the stick part in Marius's presentation. And the heavy stakers, so what we currently think of a validator, would be expected to include them. So this would be a small capital investment, low slashing risk, but also a low reward, obviously, but still interesting. And I think this is the last use case is the L2 crosslinks. Currently, because Verkle offers smaller proofs, currently you kind of have to go, if you want to use a resource from one L2 on another one, you have to go through from one L2 to another L2, you have to go through the L1 to transfer those. There are some companies, I'm aware of one called Lagrange, that try to create cross links between every L2, so skip L1. The use case is an ENS. You want to prove on one L2 that you have registered an ENS on a different L2. Because you have smaller proofs, you could do this, and you could get some nodes that offer an RPC endpoint, where you would say, prove that I have this ENS on this L2, and make me a proof that is valid on this other L2. So this way, that could be achieved, and I think it would improve the usability. So these are just basic example. It's really very hand wavy. But where I'm getting at is to build this future. We need people like you. There's a Verkle testnet that's already available, so it's got most of the features. So yeah, basically come and play and build a better Ethereum. So that's pretty much it for my talk. I left some links, so the Verkle tree, as well as the Verkle tree information page, as well as the testnet. Some papers from Mike and Barnabé on PBS, and then the famous rainbow staking article by Barnabé. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you. We do have a little extra time if you want to take questions.
Yeah.
If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. Don't be shy, you can put your hands up. We've got a question over here.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. So you run your own nodes. Do you make your transactions go through your own node as well?
No, I mean, I haven't felt the need, but yeah, it would be okay. I assume that was a personal question. In theory, yeah, I could. It's not a problem. But no, I don't. Is there a follow-up question?
No, it was connected to the previous talk to avoid MEV bots and things like that, and but that's more connected to the one before. So that's what I was asking.
Well, this being said, I don't run MEV boosts.
Okay.
Anymore, I swear, I stopped.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Does anyone have another question? If not, our next panel will start at... Oh, sorry, I didn't see. We've got one over there.
Right.
So how to make sure Signal correctly store the data?
Sorry, I didn't.
Because you just mentioned that sync node when you want to do the stateless client, and then like some node have to store all the data, right? All the historical data,
right? And
they are called sync node. And I want to know how to make sure sync node store correctly the data.
Oh, well, you would be given a proof that well, okay. The data, you want the latest data, right? So because the latest block still has all the state, you can prove that even though your data was last accessed a long time ago, it's still present in that cryptographic commitment. That it's still present in the state that is committed to by this cryptographic commitment. And so when you are given a proof, you are given a proof against the latest block, or at least a recent block. So when you are being served the data, you can immediately check if the data is not only correct but current.
Is it a commitment or is it like a ZK proof?
Both in theory, but currently it's a commitment. It's what we call a polynomial commitment, or a vector commitment, more exactly. So yeah, it is a commitment that represents the whole tree that is stored in the block itself, and then you open this commitment. You prove that your value is indeed inside this big polynomial.
Right. Thank you.
Was there one more over there, or? If not, thank you very much for your talk. Our next panel will start at 11, so we'll start preparing for that.
Cool.
See you guys in 10 minutes. Yeah, thank you.